Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to do episode 2 of my mental training series. Now I know a lot of you guys like the technical training, the physical training videos, but you need to understand that unless you're mentally in the right place, if your mind is not in the right place, it doesn't matter how talented you are, how skillful you are, how much work you put in on the physical side, it's not going to be enough to fulfill your potential. You need to be mentally in the right place. You might see this all the time where there's players that are younger, they have a lot of potential. Everyone says they're going to be the next Messi, going to be the next whoever. And just because of their mental preparation or something's not right mentally, they end up not fulfilling their potential and they end up flopping. And on the flip side, there's players out there that might not be that good technically, but just because of their mentality alone, they end up having a good career because of their mindset, because of their ability to compete, their ability to win games and how they prepare. So the first episode was all about mental confidence. Today is going to be about motivation. Now this is a really important one, guys, and I encourage you to watch this one the whole way through, because I honestly believe if you apply what I tell you today, it will change your life. And I know that's a bold statement, and you do need to apply it. You're not just going to watch this video and your life's going to change. You need to actually apply the principles that I'm going to share with you today. And actually, although I'm directing this to soccer players, I know my audience is mainly ambitious soccer players looking to get to the next level, but this really applies for anybody. This applies to anybody with a dream, with a goal, with an ambition. This applies to you guys as well. So if you're watching this and you're not a soccer player, stick around because this is going to help you as well. So I'm actually on top of a parking lot right now. I had to go for a walk because it's just such a beautiful day outside, but it's just so noisy down in the street, so I got high up. It just helps me think, and I'm just going to ramble on again like I did in the first episode, which was all about confidence. So let's talk about motivation and the definition of motivation, what it is. So motivation is the desire to act upon something. It causes you to do something. It causes you to behave in a certain way. That's what motivation is. It's an internal feeling. It's what you have on the inside that causes you to do something. Now, the only way we can have motivation is if we have a motive. So the difference between motivation and a motive is the thing that causes you to do something. Motivation is the feeling that you have that causes you to act. A motive is what gives you that feeling and what causes you to act that way. So make sure you know the difference between the two things, because I get a lot of questions of people asking, how do I stay motivated? How do I stay on track to achieving my goals and keep that momentum going? And the way that you do that is you need to have a specific motive. You need to understand what it is that you want to achieve, whatever it might be. So I'm going to talk about soccer for a second. So motivation is obviously the feeling of getting up and training. That's where the motivation is. But in order to be able to do that, in order to be able to have that motivation, you've got to have a specific goal. You need to have a motive. So that can be anything. That's all dependent on you. Everybody has different motives, but a motive could be something as simple as, I want to improve my shooting accuracy. I want to improve my 40-meter dash by 0.2 seconds. That can be your motive. And then when you have that motive and you really want to achieve that, that's going to cause you to go out and train. So if you know that, hey, I want to improve my mile time by 10 seconds, and if you really want that thing, that's going to cause you to get out and train every day towards it. But you got to make sure your motive is something you truly want. So you really need to ask yourself these questions. What do I want to improve? What do I want to achieve? So if it's, I want to improve shooting accuracy, or if I want to improve my mile time, if that's something you truly want, then you're going to be motivated to do it. So you need to select your motives accordingly to what you really want. And don't worry about if your motives are different, what other people want. It's all within yourself. So this is a personal choice. You need to ask yourself, what is it that I want to achieve? And that becomes your motive. And that's what's going to get you up in the morning, and that's what's going to give you that drive, give you that ambition to achieve that thing. So I'm going to give you a bit of help now. So the problem with a lot of people that I see especially is when they have their motive, their goal, their thing that they want to achieve, the reason they don't stay motivated towards achieving that thing is because they put it too lofty. Now, I'm all for people having big, ambitious goals. That's fantastic if you do have that. But if you just have one big goal and nothing in between, it's going to be very hard to stay motivated towards achieving that thing. Because like any big goal, it's not just an overnight thing. It's a series of small achievements that's going to eventually get you up to achieving that big goal. So if your goal is, I want to play for my national team, that's a great goal to have. Like, fair play to you for having that ambition to want to play at that highest level, that international level. But if you are just currently playing Sunday League and you're saying, hey, I want to play at the national level, that's just such a big gap. And although it's great to have that ambition, as I said, if you don't have smaller goals in between that are going to help you get closer towards that goal, you're going to find it very hard to stay motivated, because achieving anything is kind of like a ladder. I know you want to get to the top of the ladder, but you have to take care of each and every one of those steps of the ladder in order to get to the top. You don't just go from the first step to the final step overnight. It's a series of small steps. And so what you need to do is, when you have these big goals, these huge lofty goals, it's great to have that, but you also need to have smaller goals in between, because that's going to build momentum. That's going to give you the motivation to push on to the next step. And an analogy that I always use when I talk to players is, let's take Mount Everest, for example, probably one of the hardest mountains in the world to climb, right? So I've heard mountain climbers talk about this as well. So it's an analogy, it's not soccer related, but the same principles apply. So when a mountain climber gets to the bottom of a mountain and they look up at the top, obviously their end goal is to get to the peak, the summit of that mountain. Of course, that's why they're doing it. That's their end goal. That's the big lofty goal that they want. But in order to achieve that huge goal, they need to have smaller goals that are going to give them momentum, give them the motivation to keep climbing even when times get tough. So instead of just setting off and saying, all right, I'm just going to go up to the top of this mountain, boom. They have smaller goals. So they might, on the first day, they say, I want to get a mile. I want to get half a mile. However it might be. They have smaller goals so that when they achieve that, they can then set a next goal. So once they've achieved that half mile, they might rest overnight or something like that. So they've achieved that goal. They get that little feeling of success. And then the next day they push on for another half mile or another mile. So as you can see, even though they have that end goal in mind, those smaller goals on a day-to-day basis is what giving them momentum, is giving them that motivation to push on. And eventually, if they keep achieving these smaller goals, before they know it, they're at the top of the mountain. And it's not because they just went off straight shot with one goal in mind. They did a multitude of different smaller goals. And this is what you need to apply into your own goals as well. So if your goal is to, let's say you want to score 35 goals in a season. Let's say you're a striker, you want to score 35 goals. If all you're thinking about is, I just want to score 35 goals, that goal can become overwhelming. It's kind of like looking at the top of Mount Everest again. It looks so high up, it's so far, you're always so far away. But if you have the smaller goals, it becomes a lot more manageable. You become a lot more motivated. It becomes a lot more realistic to achieving those goals. So if you say, I just want to score 2 goals a game, 1 goal a game, then it becomes more manageable, because then your goal, instead of thinking about that 35 goals, you're thinking about this game, this present moment. What can I do today? What small goal can I achieve today that's going to help me achieve that long-term goal in the future? Because if you go through every game and you're not thinking about scoring on those games, you might completely be overwhelmed by that far distant goal that you might not end up scoring for a few games. So if you just concentrate on the single game, the day-to-day business, taking care of the daily little increments, the small goals, scoring 1 goal here, 1 goal there, 2 goals in this match. Before you know it, by the end of the season, you might have scored that 35 goals and maybe even gone beyond it. So it's a lot more important to have those smaller goals that are going to help you along the way to achieving your long-term goal. And here's a principle that you can apply today, and this is really going to change you if you actually go ahead and apply this. When you have a goal, you need to think about it in these few terms. So this is the principle that I'm going to share with you. It's called SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Now, each letter stands for something different. So the S stands for specific. When you have a goal, you need to specifically know in your mind or write it down exactly what you want to achieve. So if it's, you want to score 35 goals, that's your specific goal, 35 goals. So you write that down. The M is measurable. Can you actually measure the success of this goal? So it's all well and good having a goal, but if you can't actually measure it, it's going to be hard to stay motivated. It's going to be hard to know once you've achieved that. But having something like 35 goals, you have a number in it. There's 35. If you don't get 35 goals, you haven't met it. If you get 35 goals, then it's measurable. You've achieved that goal. The A comes for achievable. Is it humanly possible? So if you're a sprinter or something and you're like, I just want to get 100 meters in 6 seconds. Well, that's not achievable because it's not humanly possible. Maybe sometime in the future we'll be at a sports improve and the science behind the sports improve, but it's not achievable. So you've just set yourself a goal that's impossible to achieve. So you need to make sure it's achievable. Can it be physically done? So if you're a runner and you want to shave 0.1 seconds off of your 100-meter time, that can be done. With a lot of training, it can be done. So make sure it's achievable. The R in SMART stands for realistic. So you need to be realistic with yourself. You need to figure out where you are. So like I was talking about in the start of the video, if you're playing Sunday League right now and you're saying, okay, next year I want to play for my national team in the World Cup, you're giving yourself a year to jump from Sunday League to the World Cup. It's not impossible. You know, crazy things do happen, but we're not relying on miracles. Don't set yourself a goal that's going to take a miracle for it to happen. You need to set yourself something that you can physically work towards. So if you're playing Sunday League and you want to get on the national team, maybe by next year you got to say to yourself, by next year I want to be playing semi-professional or something, the next step in your career. So like we were talking about the ladder, it's not going from step 1 to step 10, it's going from step 1 to step 2. So maybe step 2, if you're playing Sunday League right now, is trying to get on a semi-professional team, because that's a step up in standard, and then the following year try and step it up again. So make sure it's realistic. Make sure you're being realistic with yourself, where you are right now, where you want to go. And the T in SMART stands for time. So you need to give yourself a time frame on how long you want to take to achieve this goal, because if you don't set yourself a time limit, sometimes you can just sit back and relax and not actually work actively every day towards your goal. So let's take the semi-pro examples. Let's say you got a year to get on a semi-pro team. So if it's whatever date is today, May, whatever it is. If you give yourself a year, so May 2018, you want to be on a semi-pro team, then you have something to work towards. You've given yourself a time frame. You're going to be more motivated because you've now got a time limit. You have something to work with. You know that you got to work hard every single day, because if you just say, oh, I just want to make a semi-pro team sometime in the future, it's less motivating. You've got less call to action to wake up every day and work hard because you haven't set yourself a deadline. You can just say, oh, I'll just get round to it at some point. It's kind of like doing your homework or something like that. If a teacher didn't set you a deadline for your homework, chances are you probably wouldn't do it and you wouldn't be motivated. So all these things, the SMART principle, I'll write in the description, S-M-A-R-T. You need to apply all these things when you're setting yourself a goal. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to stay motivated. So if you really apply this today, I promise it will change your life. It's going to change your outlook on your goals, on your dreams, and it's going to give you a call to action to make you deliberately start actively working towards your dreams and ambitions today. So that's the knowledge I want to drop on you guys today. If you did make it this far in the video, shout out, you are a true subscriber. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I know it can sometimes be boring, me just rambling on, but this is good knowledge. This is something that is really going to help you improve. It's not as visually entertaining as maybe the drills and things like that, but this is so important, guys. The mental side of the game is probably more important than the physical side. A lot of top coaches and stuff say, you know, football is 70-80% mental, and it's so true. If you're not mentally in the right frame of mind, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to fulfill your potential. So if you did make it this far, I want to know 2 things, okay? Drop me a comment and let me know 2 things. I want to know, what is your long-term goal? What is your overall goal? And be realistic with it. And also I want to know, what is your short-term goal? What are you going to start doing today? What are you going to set yourself now that's going to help you achieve that long-term goal? Because I want to know, and I want to hold you guys accountable to it. I want you to actually start working towards your long-term goal today by working towards that next step that's going to allow you to do it. So let me know in the comments 2 things, your long-term goal and your short-term goal, what you're going to start working on today. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, Drop me a subscribe if you are new to the channel and you want weekly videos that are going to help you improve as players. And as always, I will see you in the next video.